let's talk the taboo topic of guns. Everyone knows there is too much of violence and killings in America. Something has to change. After the recent Minnesota shooting, I got the idea to create this series on the Constitution. Most people think the problem is the Second Amendment, and most people believe that it says everyone has the right to bear arms. But is that what it really says? Does everybody have the right to buy how many of whatever kind of weapons or guns they want? Or does it say only if you're associated with the military? Well, you tell me in the comments. Here's what the Second Amendment really says. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's it. Short and to the point, but is it? The framers wrote about muskets. Reload, fire, repeat. Today, we have AR-15s. Pretending those are the same is bad history. Does it separate gun ownership from active or retired military service? Does it say anything about quantity, quality, or firepower? Does it even explicitly state that everyone has the right to bear arms? Nope. Another lie to support behavior that's bad for our democracy and bad for our health. All to the tune of tens of billions of dollars for an industry that has enough blood on their hands. I hope this explainer put things in perspective. And a fun fact, when I lived in Sacramento as a kid, my family took us out one weekend. Every weekend we took a trip. I certainly know where I got my curiosity bug from, to San Jose to the Winchester Mystery House. It was cool and creepy and fun. I recommend it if you're in the area, but I mention it because of what I was talking about earlier about the gun lobby having too much blood on their hands. Sarah Winchester, widow of William Winchester, inherited bloody money, so much so that it drove her mad, and in her mind, if she could keep building her house, she would never die. She ended up building a very strange place, like one of those Hieronymus Bosch paintings. It's wild to visit, surreal, if not sad. When guns win, nobody wins. Here's the twist. Even if you believe in the right to own a gun, does that right really extend to weapons that can kill dozens at once? The framers wrote this in a world of muskets, not AR-15s. That's why constitutional interpretation matters. There are two main schools of thought. The first is currently the only rational theory practiced. I'll explain why in a moment. It's called Living Constitutionalism/Pragmatism. And yes, surprise, you're getting a mini crash course in constitutional law today. So what does Living Constitutionalism/Pragmatism mean? Living Constitutionalism says the Constitution is a living document. Its meaning can evolve with society's changing values and realities. Judges read it in light of today, balancing precedent, reason, and consequences. Think Justices Brennan and Breyer. The core belief? Flexibility. The Constitution must adapt to protect rights the framers couldn't even imagine, like digital privacy in the age of smartphones. Okay, well, why did I say it's the only one being practiced? Well, because it is. Because prior to 2025, the conservative Republicans on the Supreme Court and many judges elsewhere claimed to be the other contemporary theory on constitutional law. They called themselves the originalists, or the textualists. But in 2025, those same Republicans are not only upending precedent, often with very little or no comment on their rulings, but they are making rulings that are contradictory to their own theory. Frankly, it's just a power grab. All three of the branches of government. There is currently no separation of powers. But anyway, here's the gist of that apparently now debunked theory. Originalism or textualism theory said that the Constitution means exactly what it meant when written. Late 1700s for the original text, 1800s for the amendments. Judges under this theory stick to the words and their historical meaning, honoring what the framers intended or what the public understood at the time. Think Scalia or Thomas. The core belief? Stability. Judges shouldn't make law. They should apply what was written then. If society wants change, it should amend the Constitution, not reinterpret it. So you can see why it's debunked. As we said earlier, a AK-47 isn't the same as an 18th century musket rifle, and to pretend that it is, well, is just kind of stupid. And your video challenge. Ask one friend to watch this video and answer our related poll. Here's the question. The Founding Fathers had great technological innovations in their lifetime, such as the invention of the steam engine, and even in firearms, Eli Whitney, inventor of the cotton gin, had created interchangeable parts for rifling by 1790, and the Revolution was the last musket war since the invention of interchangeable parts industrialized arms production and changed warfare permanently. Knowing this, it would be a reasonable assumption that the Founding Fathers knew that weapons, even in their own lifetimes, would increase in strength and power. So certainly, they know the risks of this growth in technology, even if they hadn't yet envisioned the AR-15 or the AK-47. Earlier, I argued in defense of living constitutionalism in regards to the contrast. Does knowing about Eli Whitney's invention of interchangeable parts further strengthen my argument that the Founding Fathers knew that technology would change, and with it, necessary changes to the Constitution? Further, bonus question, if they knew about the dangers of advancing technological warfare, certainly they didn't want unlimited future tech in everyone's homes. That couldn't have been the intention of the Second Amendment, as the NRA and other conservative interests contend, could it? Let me know your interpretations of constitutional law question in the poll and the bonus question in the comments below. Here's the kicker. Eli Whitney didn't just invent interchangeable parts in theory. By the 1790s, he had government contracts to supply muskets made with this new technology. George Washington himself oversaw these efforts. In other words, the founders were not blind to technological leaps in firearms. They were directly involved in pushing them forward. So when we talk about the Second Amendment, we're not talking about men who thought technology would stay frozen in time. They lived through revolutions in printing, transportation, and weapons, and because they knew technology would keep changing, they gave us Article 5, the amendment process, so the Constitution itself could adapt. That's why it makes no sense to claim they intended unlimited access to whatever future weapons industry might produce. They knew change was inevitable, and they built flexibility into our system precisely for that reason. I'll cover the Third Amendment in our next video, but only after this one gets 10,000 views. Guess that's another reason to share. This has been episode 2 of Understanding the Constitution, part of our Democracy in Crisis series. Thank you for watching. You've just joined the Renaissance Spirit, a channel dedicated to a just, equitable, and humanitarian world. Here we explore history, politics, culture, religion, personal growth, and the lessons of civilization, from ancient Rome to modern America. We believe the Renaissance isn't over. It's waiting inside anyone who chooses curiosity, courage, and conscience. Living the Renaissance spirit means engaging with history as a dialogue, not just with the past, but with the future. Our work is a message to posterity. Will they inherit justice and wisdom, or wonder why we failed to act? Subscribe, turn on notifications, and take our Renaissance quiz to see if you carry the spark. Because if history is collapsing in real time, someone has to narrate the fall and plant the seeds of what comes after. Live the Renaissance spirit. History has not died, only our understanding of it.